in the wintertime, we do what's called the cold patrol to try to keep people out of the cold. But we're leaving it to the police and the others to actually help get residents in for something like this. I do anticipate we'll have some more folks even tonight. And then tomorrow, as this really ramps up, we'll probably see an influx even in the morning.
Major Ernest Hall from the Salvation Army, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for all the work you're doing for our community. All right. Thank you so much.
In studio right now, we have City Council President Helena Moreno. Thank you for your time. It's interesting. I know you've gone through this on one side, on this side, and now you are on the other side in conversation with you are city leaders in conversation with all the officials. Walk us through what the conversation has been like over the last couple of days to keep people safe.
So they say Sunday morning flights there, so pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. Then we just get an email, American Airlines canceling all flights on Saturday from New Orleans as well, too. So I know American, Southwest, JetBlue, Frontier have definitely all canceled all their flights for tomorrow. We'll see if some other airlines join.
Yeah, and if you're curious about the situation out there, you just go to flymsy.com. It's a really good resource. It lists all the flights departing, all the flights arriving, and it'll tell you if they're on time, if they're delayed, if they're canceled. So if you don't have to go out there to check.
Check before.
Right, it was kind of a mess out there today. Chris Hagan's been out and about around the city of New Orleans, and right now he is at the lakefront where the winds were whipping up just a little while ago. Hey, Chris.
Yeah, that's right. Things picking up a little bit. We just saw what looks like the last couple of people finally say, okay, we've seen the lake crash against the seawall enough. We're going to head back inside. When we got out here, probably about 45 minutes ago, there were a lot of people. There were some guys skimboarding around in some of the water out here. So obviously not a good idea, but you can see as you look outside the storm tracker vehicle, the water crashing up against the seawall and a good bit of it, pushing onto the sidewalk and the walkway here. So again, it looked like the last bit of people had done their sightseeing. There were people posing for pictures and seemingly having fun, but I don't think this is the time for that anymore, as it appears to be getting the conditions a little bit worse out here on the street here at the end of Canal Boulevard. I think people are starting to move inside and take it a little bit more seriously. Still haven't seen a ton of rain. Maybe the winds have picked up a little bit and the rain's been on and off and a drizzle at best, but nothing crazy that we've seen out here as we continue down the street. So we'll keep you posted if we see anything really picking up. But for now, as expected, the lake just getting a little bit choppier here, hitting up against the seawall. So for now, we'll send things back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Chris.
So, yeah.
What were you going to say?
Chris was driving all around the city. We sent him out to the lakefront because we could see the people out there. Earlier when we talked about that shot, we could just see a bunch of people hanging out on the lakefront. And that's what you don't want to see. You see it every storm because people are just amazed at the power of the water and the wind and the waves coming across the seawall. But it's a dangerous situation. And the officials always tell you, be careful when you're out there. Yes. Don't even go out there, because if first responders have to come out and rescue you, then they're putting themselves in danger to try to get to you.
And right now there is a shelter in place in Orleans Parish. It's not an official curfew. The mayor told us that takes a little more resources. I guess they didn't want to commit to it or couldn't commit. So there is a shelter in place. So the city is asking everyone to kind of stay put, let first responders do their job. And, it's nighttime. Most places are closed now anyway, so there's really no need to be out and about.
No, anyway. There is not. Let's go back to Tiffany Wong, who is in St. Charles Parish with an update for us.
Hey guys, it's getting a little windier here and it's starting to drizzle, but we're out here in St. Charles Parish right by Airline Highway, where crews, despite the fact that it's dark now, they're still out here working to install some pumps ahead of the storm. I'm going to walk out of the way so you can kind of see, hopefully. Parish President Larry Cochran says they're installing a 36-inch pump in this ditch over here to the left and 4 other smaller pumps to help supplement their pump station, again, ahead of the storm. The Director of Public Works says the 36-inch pump can pump out 100 cubic feet of water per second, while the other 4 pumps can push out 30,000 gallons per minute. Cochran says he also took Congressman Garrett Graves to the West Bank, where they closed the Parody Canal earlier today, and where and were able to get total closure between the Parody Canal all the way to the diversion where they have 7.5 foot of protection. Cochran says they've issued voluntary evacuations for low-lying areas like Des Allemands, where they had to HESCO basket the whole area, which basically means they use giant sandbags to build a wall of protection. And they also spoke of a future project that would help out not only St. Charles, but also St. John Parish. Congressman Graves helped obtain funding for a levee that would run from here, St. Charles, all the way through St. John and to St. James Parish. It's a project that they say they've been working on for over 40 years now. And again, that would help in storm events like this that's coming up. Reporting live from St. Charles Parish, Tiffany Wong, Fox 8, Local First.
All right, Tiffany.
Trying to get those pumps ready and
Yes.
working as the storm makes its way ashore. Let's go to Zach Fridella, who's standing by in our weather center with the latest on Barry.
And the latest on Barry is that we're starting to see a few more bands move inland, and there's like this little meso low. We've always talked about this all afternoon. We said the center of circulation with Barry is a little wide. It's elongated. It's not like one little center. It's multiple things rotating around a broader center. And this is one of those little rotations. You can almost see it scooting along, and it's rotating, and it's going to probably spin about and then eventually possibly move back offshore as we go throughout the next few hours. But these things are racing along, and it's been rough. It's been a rough go of it from La Rose to Galliano. Thankfully, you've cleared out now, but this was a pretty potent band that's moving through. It's about to move into Homa, so it's going to get very gusty, and that rain is going to start to come down very hard, but at least it's moving, and it's moving kind of horizontally. It's not moving in the same spot over and over again. We do have a few little extra bands moving just south of Jean Lafitte, moving into the Solomons, eventually Vacherie. So you're going to get some spurts of heavy rainfall and some gusty winds at times, and even that extends back closer to the metro area. These are going to continue to push the East Bank. They're on the West Bank right now, and that's the kind of a look at the South Shore. The North Shore, it's quiet. I mean, we've had a few little bands from time to time, but for the most part, there's one maybe just north of Pearl River. But again, they're so small and they come so fast. It rains for a minute, and then it's gone. Mississippi Gulf Coast, can't forget about you. Bay St. Lucie, you had one blow through a short time ago, but that's now pushing north of I-10 and some rough weather back towards Biloxi. But for the most part, that's scooting inland. That's not moving along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Here's the big picture, and there is Barry could be trying to maybe get itself a little bit more organized. All along, we've seen the convection on the southern side of the circulation. The circulation is basically about right here. And notice how you're getting some sharper banding right here. It's trying to tighten that circulation just a little bit more. Now, you're wondering here in southeast Louisiana, okay, well, what does that mean for me? I mean, if the storm goes way over here, that's going to take these bands with it. Well, eventually this band will start to expand outward. And then as the storm gets closer to the coast, that band will try to come inland. So that's what we'll be watching through the overnight hours. We've said it all along. It's going to be the rain impacts that are the big story with this storm. And here's the latest European model. Again, the European and GFS, we're not going to see updates on those models until, say, after 10 o'clock on the GFS and then after midnight on the European. But the European has shifted that heaviest rainfall, still calling for 20 to 25 inches, but more so west of Baton Rouge. As I put the American model on here, or the GFS, it's more so on the east side of Baton Rouge, cross portions of the river parishes, and you see that swath. It's not very wide, and it's where that rain falls. Is the European right and it's over here, or is the GFS right and it's on more so the east side of Baton Rouge, closer to New Orleans? New Orleans still picks up a good 5 to 10 inches if the GFS is right. The Weather Prediction Center, the smart meteorologist up in, I think that's actually in Washington, D.C. or the Maryland area, those guys put together, hey, we'll look at all the models and we'll determine what do we think is going to happen. And they're kind of right in the middle. And that's the most prudent thing to do. You go between the two extremes. And that's where they have this swath of 15-inch rain amounts from Baton Rouge down to the coast. We know there's going to be this little wide band, say 20 to 40 mile band of very heavy rainfall totals. It's just trying to figure out where exactly it's going to fall. I do feel it's going to be west of the city of New Orleans, but that doesn't eliminate the threat for another band setting up across New Orleans. No, it might not be 20 inches of rain falling, but 10 inches of rain falling over a short period of time of, say, 4 to 6 hours. We have significant problems. Most places would have significant problems with that much rain, so that's what we'll be watching as we head into your Saturday, because Saturday is going to be the big impact day. And everybody's saying, hey, where's the storm? There, we're getting these brief showers. It's blowing out there, but it's just a windy day with some rain, and that's exactly what we're looking at the city right now. We have one of those showers. all that rain's hitting the camera. And remember, it's wind-driven rain, so it's not falling straight down. It's falling right into the camera. You can't see the Superdome at this time out of our tower cam. Here's the highest wind gust we've seen since midnight. And notice in and around the city, it's been about 35 to 45 miles per hour with those highest gusts. We've had our highest gusts within the past hour at Fouchon coming in at 62 miles per hour. And the Montauk River hasn't been too bad. Now, some of the stations that are actually on the water, we've seen gusts up to 70 to possibly even as high as 75 miles per hour. And those winds, as we go through the overnight hours, are going to slowly increase, especially in Terrebonne Parish, St. Mary's Parish, off to the west. As that center gets closer and closer, we're going to get more of these bands moving in. And then that wind will also expand inland. This is by midnight. Notice, North Shore, you're only about 35 miles per hour. South Shore, maybe closer to 40. But as we go into closer to that landfall, possibly as early as maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe as late as 6 or 7 in the morning. That's where we're going to get the storm inland. Morgan City jumps to 70 miles per hour wind gusts. So that gives you an indication. There's going to be some strong winds to the east of that center, and those strong winds will also rotate inland, but we need some of those bands to get the stronger winds to come down to the surface. And that's going to be the question mark. How much of that heavy rainfall starts to play out? Where do those bands set up? Because where the bands set up, that produces the heavy rain. That also produces the stronger wind gusts, because that rain coming down actually brings those stronger winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere down to the surface. And we keep the wind high through tomorrow, lunchtime, 12 o'clock. We're still gusting about the same as right now, maybe a little bit higher than right now, even into tomorrow afternoon, into the evening hours. It's not until once we get to tomorrow night, that's when I think these numbers will start to come down. We'll drop to below, say, 25 on the North Shore with gusts, and South Shore it'll slowly come down below 30 miles per hour once we get into the overnight hours, Saturday night going into Sunday. So tonight's forecast, the winds, they're going to continue to increase, especially in those squalls. When the squall passes you, you're going to get your strongest wind gusts, and those easterly winds are going to slowly turn down to the southeast and then basically due south once we get past midnight and that storm starts to move inland. I wanted to show you this because I just updated it. This is the 7-day. This is going to give you hope for a lot better weather eventually. This weekend is just a dud. It's going to be one of those weekends that we will love to forget in July, but eventually by Monday, rain chances start to come down. The tail of the storm is the key, though. We could still have some heavy rainfall Sunday into Monday. How this thing moves north, where those bands start to set up, even after it gets far north, we have to watch that. But Tuesday, 90 degrees. Once we get 90 degrees, we're back to normal summer weather. And then eventually, by the end of next week, 94 is going to start to become a common number. But I had to that 7-day because you know what? There are better days ahead. There always are. And I guess 94 is a better day in this regard, but it's certainly it's better than all of this bad weather and all of this wind. And we're right now we're more focused on what's going on along the coast, because we are pushing a lot of water into our coastline, seeing the pictures coming out of those locations, and everybody in the city's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Right.
They have no protection, and then that's what we got to watch through the overnight hours, and also the rainfall.
So why now might it be getting more organized? Because usually when we see storm systems come in, as they get closer, they start kind of falling apart.
David, throughout the past few days, has been showing that 90-degree temperature water right off our coastline. It's probably feeding some of that. We have very hot water off our coast. Now it's also moving slowly, and there's a thing called upwelling. If it sits in the same spot for too long, remember there's a lot of waves out there that churns up the water and brings some cool water from down below to the top of the water. But right now it's sitting over 90-degree water, so that's easily can fuel a storm. And also maybe the wind shear's coming down, but it's still, I don't think it has enough time to really wrap itself up anymore.
So at 10 o'clock, we'll have another advisory. I mean, what are you looking for in that? I guess
a pressure change, which we'll see that in advance because we're watching the hurricane hunters in there continuously. So we'll know, hey, is this thing strengthening? There's really each update. It's almost like, okay, we're going to know if the track's going to shift at this point, and it's not. We know that the track's going to stay the same, and we see the pressure from the hurricane hunters. So we almost every update, we don't expect much from them, at this point, because we're just watching as it slowly moves inland.
So the European model still shows west of Baton Rouge getting the heaviest rain. GFS model still shows east of Baton Rouge getting the heaviest rain. Which one do you trust? Which one at this point? And now that we're
take the extremes. Take both extremes and you blend them in the middle, and that's usually what happens.
Baton Rouge.
Yeah, unfortunately, but it's still both of them are west of us now. Remember, GFS was over us with that 20, 25 inches yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It's now not over us. It's pushed
But
a
we
little
still
west.
have, Terrebonne, Lafitte,
Yeah.
they can still be.
But even
impacted.
it's kind of pushed a little
Pushed
west
past
of
them,
them.
yeah.
You know, it's more so in Morgan City. I know we still have viewers in Morgan City and those places. So, it has pushed far enough west that maybe we can escape the worst of it, but it's just going to be a wait and see game.
Which model has been better for this storm, GFS or European? It's tough.
The European was the first, say during the weekend. When I was working this past weekend, it was showing, hey, we're going to have a storm. The GFS said, no, we're not going to have a storm. So the European hit that first.
Okay.
But the European has also been a little bit more west than what the storm eventually is going. So it's hard to.
It's not exactly.
So you're saying, European may be right because it got it first, but then GFS might be right because GFS has gotten the path once it got the storm.
Yeah.
So basically,
You'll tell us tomorrow.
Yeah, basically you have no clue. Yeah, I mean, you can't predict all.
I'll say this, and I've been tracking these things since my days in high school. I grew up here. Usually it's a blend of the GFS and Euro. It usually always is. And from a track perspective, from the start of this, the Euro was too far, west. The GFS was closer to us, and look where it's going. The Euro was more so southwest Louisiana. It's basically going to go right into south central Louisiana. So usually it's a blend of those two models. That's what gets kind of the middle track usually right.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks. And by the way, he's not my son. Have people ask you that really?
Yeah, I mean, they always
That's on that old.
We are calling it Little Z though. Zach.
Yeah.
Oh,
Zuri.
yes.
Her name's Little Z.
Little Z.
Big Z, Little Z.
Yeah.
Glad
Not
you
your son, though.
You're a good-looking man, Zach. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Zach. All right, let's go to Natasha Robin now, who has been live in St. Bernard all afternoon and evening.
Action right now on Airline Highway is the parish, St. Charles Parish, is installing 5 temporary pumps here to assist the pump station nearby. And we're just on the other side of the Bonnie Carey spillway. If you're crossing the spillway, we're just on the other side. That's where this is happening right now. And I want to introduce you guys to Snooki Focia. You're with the parish here. You're the one who's overseeing this. So tell us why you guys are doing this. What's going on here?
Well, we have a pump station that's right there. We have 3 30-inch hydraulic pumps. The capacity under normal circumstances is close to what we need to pump out the area. But it is deficient when we have this kind of rain event. So we brought in the 5 temporary pumps. Fortunately, we have a great relationship with Entergy. This is their right-of-way, and they're allowing us to pump out of the canal through their right-of-way out to the lake. So we're supplementing it with approximately 30,000 gallons per minute for these temporary pumps. And we have a 36 hydraulic pump that they're setting with that crane over there that's about 70 feet per second.
You're talking about several inches over the next few days of rainfall, if not possibly in the teens. So how much will these 5 pumps really help this community?
Tremendous. Right now, this pump will, at full capacity, when they're all running, will just about handle this area. But we're seeing some issues right here at Airline Highway. So to be able to utilize the 3 sets of concrete box culverts that are down this direction, which is the reason we're setting that major pump here. Our restriction is these 3 small culverts that are underneath this roadway that goes to the Entergy right-of-way. So we can't take this up because this is the Entergy right-of-way. So we're setting pumps on that side to optimize the use of this ditch and optimize the use, or should I say prevent the restriction of these culverts.
Is there anything anyone at home here in St. Charles Parish can be doing at the last second to help you guys out with drainage?
Of course. Check your ditch in your front yard, see if there's anything in your culvert. We had garbage pass earlier today. Make sure your garbage cans get picked up. If you have subsurface drainage, be aware that debris material, especially leaves and vegetation, when we have this kind of rain, it's not what's in the street, it's what's in your yard that washes down. Just be aware that you may have to clean the surface of your drain. Public Works, we're going to be out all night. We've been running 12-hour shifts since Wednesday. My guys are going to be out most of the night until we get word from EOC that we're surpassed the 35 miles per hour continuous wind speeds. But after that, you have to be somewhat self-reliant.
And is there any point in the future where you guys are going to hunker down yourselves? Or you guys going to keep pushing forward with projects in the next few hours?
Oh, we'll be pushing forward for the next few hours. We have safe houses on both sides of the river, so we're not worried about crossing the bridge at this point in time. We're going to go to our Public Works office right here in Destrehan. So, we're in it for the long haul tonight. We're expecting anywhere from 10 to 15 inches, possibly as much as 20. And that's what we're preparing for. We're preparing for 20 inches of rain.
And you are prepared for that.
We are prepared for that, yes.
And it's important to know you guys are also working in the rain tonight.
It's part of the job.
All right, Snooki, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
And
sir.
again, just a quick recap, guys. You see the work they're having right now. We're on Airline Highway, just on the other side of the Bonnie Carey Spillway, still in St. Charles Parish in the town of Mons, where they are installing 5 temporary pumps to assist with any rainfall that may happen or may fall here on Airline Highway or really in St. Charles Parish. But for now, guys, I'm going to send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Michael in St. Charles Parish, thank you so much for that. This just into the newsroom. A vehicle has gone into the canal in Jefferson Parish. This is in St. Mary and West Esplanade. We understand that the car hit a gas line, so power may be out in that neighborhood. Again, a vehicle in the canal, St. Mary and West Esplanade in Jefferson. We have a crew on the way to the scene, so as soon as we get any more updates on that, we'll make sure we pass it along to you. And as soon as our reporter Travis Mackle gets there, we'll make sure we bring you that scene.
All right, time now 8:43. In just a few moments, we'll get another check of the forecast with Chief Meteorologist Margaret Orr. But we do know that folks right now should be in place at home. The mayor has asked you to finalize those preparations. We just heard from the City Council President Helena Moreno. She was just saying, this is the time they are expecting to start feeling the impacts. This is the time things are set to be ramping up. So it's better not to be on the streets right now. And so this is why the advice was given to be at home for the duration of the event.
All right, Chief Meteorologist Margaret Orr is here now with an update on Tropical Storm Barry, Margaret.
And so rain is beginning to increase. And as these rain bands move on shore, well, then you're going to get some of those strong gusty winds. And in fact, we can look at the winds right now. A little bit ago over in Houma, they were 48 miles per hour at the lakefront, 38 miles per hour. We can handle this. It's when you get the 60 mile per hour winds. Well, then that's when you get the tree limbs falling down, falling on the power lines, and you get the power outages. Here is a look at the updated forecast at 7 o'clock. We've got Barry at this point about 85 miles southeast of Morgan City, barely moving to the west-northwest at 4 miles per hour. Max wind 70 miles per hour. And the headline from the Hurricane Center was, it could still become a hurricane. But I'm telling you, this is not a healthy system. So let me just show you where we have the warnings. It is right over here by Grand Isle to Intracoastal City. That's a hurricane warning with the potential that you could have hurricane force winds. Here is a look at the tropical storm warning, the mouth of the Pearl to Grand Isle. It does include the lakes and the metro area. And then we can look at that storm surge warning along the coast over here towards Biloxi. The potential for a storm surge of 3 to 6 feet. And when you get these rain bands moving on shore, that's when you get the water rise. So for the Atchafalaya to Shell Beach, it's 3 to 6 feet. For Shell Beach to Biloxi, 3 to 5 feet. Into the lake, the potential you could get 3 to 5 feet of water, and Lake Maurepas about 1 to 3 feet. So this is the flash flood watch, and it's from the National Hurricane Center, 10 to 20 plus inches of rain. Not everybody is going to get that. Okay, I want you to know that. Some areas may only get 2 inches of rain. Okay, but there is the potential that when you get a rain band moving over you, and if it's moving over the same area and not moving much, training essentially, well, then you've got the potential to get that heavy rain. So you've got Barry forecast to move on shore near Marsh Island. And then look at how you could have a rain band just kind of circulating around this system, and you could get that potential to get some locally heavy rain. This is from the Weather Prediction Center, and they said a high risk for excessive rainfall. They don't say that very often, so that kind of gets your attention, right? Here is a look at the flood warning right there for the Mississippi River, and of course that's had us all concerned. We've got the river that's pretty high. We're looking at the river right now, but we have had some rain move through, so you can't see it. 16.89 the last I looked, and it's forecast to get up to 19 feet. I've been looking at this river for a long time, and it's been high for a long time. At this point, 151 days over 15 feet. That's some high water for a very long time. And now open 60 days for the second time opening, 60 days for the spillway. So just before the spillway opened for the second time, the river got up to 17.25 feet. The Corps of Engineers does not like that river getting over 17 feet. That is why they opened the spillway. So here it is, it's forecast to get up to 19 feet. So that is a concern. Now we're watching other rivers too. And this river rise is going to depend on the rainfall. And some models say heavy rain, other models say not so much. So it depends on the rainfall. But right now, the Tchefuncte near Covington, 30.5 feet, that is major flood stage.
Are Peter and Lynette Smith all the way from New Zealand. And I understand this is your first tropical storm.
It is indeed.
What do you think?
Interesting. We're just waiting to see what develops. Yeah, we hope for people of New Orleans it's not too serious.
And how are you feeling on that?
I'm okay. I just hope we get out tomorrow. We're quite used to a fair bit of wind from where we come from, and also quite rough seas. We've been watching the pictures on the television with the lake and that. We drive through that nearly every day in the winter time where we live. So it's not unusual, but I do feel we saw the floods on Wednesday and what it can do, and that was interesting. We got in the lift and there was water in the lift, and we went, and this is the 4th floor. Oh, we get to the bottom floor, we went, oh, and then we looked at the street and went, oh my, okay, and no wonder there's water in the lift.
Then you got a slight break, and here we are again today.
Again. Well, see what tomorrow brings. Yeah.
Well, have you at least been able to enjoy the food, the music?
Love New Orleans. Yeah. We're just ashamed that a lot of us closed down tonight. It's calmed down by the weather. But yeah, it's a great town.
We've had a wonderful time. Yeah. We've had a wonderful time. And we were very lucky to get a steamboat ride just before it all closed down.
Well, so you were able to mark off a few things off your list.
Absolutely.
Do you think through all of this you will come back to New Orleans?
It's very memorable. Love to.
Yes. Just see everything open.
That's right, because we're looking around and you see a lot of businesses that some are open, some are surrounded by sandbags and are closed. But I'm glad you guys have at least been able to get out for a little bit and enjoy all that we have to offer. We definitely want to welcome you back when we don't have a tropical system out there.
I just hope there's not too much damage.
We hope so as well. So you guys are staying tuned though and watching the coverage to make sure that
we are, and our airline has already come through and said our flight has been delayed, but we're in touch with them. So, and they know that we're on a connecting flight to New Zealand. So they're doing pretty well for us.
We have some backup plans just in case you get delayed. Some other things.
Canoe. Get the kayak out.
We want to thank you guys so much for joining us. And listen, enjoy the rest of your trip and be safe out there. Okay? Cheers. All right. Thank you. So as you see, here we are in the French Quarter at this hour. Tropical Storm Barry moving through. But right now, really very mild conditions. Just a little bit of rain and a little bit of wind. And as you just heard, people out here are making the most of it. They're not going to let Tropical Storm Barry keep them from a good time. For now, reporting from the French Quarter, Kimberly Kerr, Fox 8 Local First.
Oh.
They are gonna. They will never forget this trip ever. This is like the vacation of a lifetime.
Yes, oh my goodness, they're
What are
going
the
to miss it.
chances?
And then they have a flight tomorrow. They said,
Right, which
in their
will
connection.
probably be
I hope
canceled.
they get back safe.
Yeah, and he said canoe. We call it a pirogue here, so you might want to ask someone for a pirogue so you can get around town.
They have a great attitude, right?
They have a wonderful attitude, and for visitors who come here, it's unusual for this to happen in July. It really is. I mean, to have that deluge just a couple of days ago, and now to have this, I mean, it just doesn't normally happen like this. So next time y'all come back from New Zealand, just make sure it's not during hurricane season.
Exactly. Or, hey, they'll have a story for the rest of their life.
But I did see a lot of people still out on
There were
Bourbon
some
Street.
people out
And
there.
like you said, even though there is a shelter in place order from the mayor, it's not a curfew. It's a recommendation. And a lot of visitors in town want to be out and about. They don't want to be locked in their hotel rooms. And if the conditions haven't deteriorated too much, they're still taking advantage of what businesses might be open.
All right, we've talked about Bayou Country a good bit tonight because they could feel a lot of the effects from Barry. We want to go down to Lafourche Parish. Sabrina Wilson is with the sheriff, Craig Weber.
The effects of Barry are certainly real here on the southern tip of Golden Meadow near Port Fourchon in Lafourche Parish. Just take a look down Highway 1, which, by the way, is absolutely closed to anything but essential traffic at this hour. The wind is pushing the water out of Bayou Lafourche onto the roadway. Certainly a very unsafe situation at this hour. We keep getting these strong, very strong gusts of wind. Now with me is Lafourche Parish Sheriff Craig Weber. Sheriff, I'm just gonna moor myself here next to this cement barrier for stability, but tell me what your officers have been encountering.
Well, we've been monitoring this checkpoint since early this morning because of the mandatory evacuation. As you just pointed out, the situation is deteriorating rapidly. We've got 50 miles, maybe even larger gusts of miles per hour winds. The water is continuing to inundate Highway 1 south of the floodgates. It is virtually impossible. Fortunately, about 2 hours ago, we got a call in the town of Leeville. A mother who had stayed with her 8-month-old baby wanted to be rescued. We were able to make that rescue. Deputy Lee Ray, who's here with me, had to wade through waist-deep water to get him into his truck and get him out. We're no longer in a position to make those type of rescues until things settle down, probably sometime later tomorrow morning.
Now that underscores the importance of people evacuating when they're asked to.
All right, that's Sabrina Wilson in Lafourche Parish.
She's been getting blown around all day in Lafourche Parish.
She lost her hat once, and it's going to get worse.
It is going to get worse before it gets better, for sure.
All right, let's go back to Plaquemines Parish now, where we join Rilwan Balogan live.
We have since moved to Jane Lafitte here, and just moments ago we spoke with Mayor Tim Kerner here, and he said they did put in place a mandatory evacuation order. And when we spoke with him, he said he is disappointed because not enough people heeded his warnings. And he said in the last 6 to 7 hours or so, a lot of water has been coming in due to a small tidal surge. And because of that surge, water coming in from the canal, the last few days they put over 30,000 sandbags along portions of the canal that haven't completed a wall. They've been building a wall for some time here, and the wall kind of stopped due to this storm. They stopped building that wall from Jean Lafitte Boulevard to Camille Ports. It's a little less than a mile away, but so they've put over 30,000 sandbags along those areas behind or at the canal behind some folks' homes. We spoke with people who live in those areas, and they say they are fine. They aren't too worried about what's coming, but they do appreciate that the town did bring those sandbags to prevent any additional water that may get into their underground there. Now they're waiting for about 8,000 more sandbags to come into town here. And what they'll continue to do is put that along the temporary wall that they were building around the canal there. Now, Mayor Tim Kerner did mention to us that earlier in the day, a tree did fall on a power line, losing power to a few homes in the area. But he said Entergy crews were in the area rather quickly. And moments ago, we did see 2 Entergy crews drive past us as they were working on a power outage at Lower Lafitte here. And wind has picked up here just a little bit, and we're just bracing for what could happen here in Barry, or from Barry rather. And the mayor said what he's concerned about is a slow movement of this storm. He doesn't know how much water will come here. This is the same thing a lot of us are waiting for. In John Lafitte, Ramon Logan, Fox 8, Local First.
All right, and we thought Rilwan was in Plaquemines Parish. Obviously, he moved over to Jefferson Parish, and we'll continue to check things out.
It's all lower Louisiana.
It is all, yeah, exactly. It is.
As I called it earlier today, South Louisiana. Speaking of that, Rob Masson is standing by in Chauvin. He was in Cocodrie a little bit earlier, moved a little bit more inland. Rob, what are you seeing?
That's right, Kim and Lee. Right now we are in Chauvin. We're about maybe 15 miles north of Cocodrie. The wind is not that bad right now. There's been some sporadic rain, but we are getting some reports of some trees being knocked down in this area. There have been some scattered power outages in the Chauvin area. We're right along the edge of Bayou, Little Caillou. You can see the shrimp boats in the background, hardly moving. This area is protected by that big floodgate we were showing you earlier down in Cocodrie. And I'm joined now by Briar Benson and Brian, you say you've seen some trees down in the area. Talk to me about that.
Right on the Smith Ridge side, right along there. You go down 56, you can turn over the Green Bridge. Got a tree down sitting on somebody's porch. I don't know if they're in the house, but if there is, we won't be able to get out.
Brian, you said you were here for Hurricane Andrew, and talk to me about how this area fared when Hurricane Andrew, because this storm, Barry, is going in Morgan City as well. Not quite as big as Andrew, but what are your big concerns after what you experienced in Andrew?
Well, I was young, but my grandmother they told us all the stories about the water, because Andrew was a direct hit to Morgan City, and it was bad for this area. They say the water was high. So that's my concern, the water.
There's been a voluntary evacuation in this area. You and a lot of other people have decided to stay. Why did you choose to stay?
Well, I stayed because the storm is a Category 1, so we didn't stay for one before and didn't have much problems, so we'll ride it out.
You worried?
Not really, not too much.
Hasn't been too bad so far.
No, then they got boats. If the water come up, I'm getting in the boat. I don't care if it ain't mine, I'm getting in that. I did that, so.
All right, hopefully we'll get to that point. Thanks for talking to us. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
So the water has not started coming up here yet. Although down in Cocodrie, it was covering the road a little while ago. We have been talking to some people who say the winds are really picking up down that way, and their generator power is kicked on. So there might be some power outages down toward Cocodrie as well. We're going to go check that out, as well as the downtree. But for the most part, this is one of the last stores that's open. We're at Marty J's and Chauvin, and this has been quite a meeting spot for a lot of people. It is shutting down right now because there is going to be a 10 o'clock mandatory curfew in Terrebonne Parish, and that curfew will remain in place until 10 a.m. And again, there is a evacuation center open at the Homa Municipal Auditorium. No word on how many people are there as yet, but for the most part, the storm has not had huge impacts. The maximum winds that were reported in this area have been anywhere between 40 and 45 miles an hour, maybe gusting up to 50. But for now, at least, it feels like maybe 15 or 20. So not very bad at all right now. But a lot of people are waiting for the back part of this storm to come in and take whatever precautions they can at this point. From St.
Bernard Parish, kind of a St. Bernard Parish institution. We are here at Rocky and Carlos with Parish President Guy McGinnis. Just an update on where you all stand right now as the parish. It seems like everything is going according to plan. You all had a media briefing at 5 o'clock, and everything seems like it is going as you expected.
It is, and thank you for coming out and having attention on St. Bernard Parish tonight. We appreciate your hard work. But right now we're batting down the hatches. We know that St. Bernard is going to receive some bad weather from the storm. We're taking it serious. We're staying vigilant. We have full staff staying overnight tonight in our EOC at St. Bernard Parish Government. So we're working hard. We want our citizens to understand that this rainfall that we're expecting tomorrow could be major and serious. So we want to be ready for that. So, as you can see, people are out tonight having dinner, and my family's here, my grandchildren, but we're going to go home tonight. We're going to take this service and wake up tomorrow morning, hopefully that's.
One of the things you told me you're concerned about is it the tide rising? Is that correct? Is that late tonight or is that early tomorrow morning?
Tonight at around 10:30, the tide's going to start rising. So what we're hoping is, because right now we have a storm surge of around 3 feet. If that storm doesn't move inward and we continue to get the eastern winds, we're worried about with the high tide plus with the winds, we're not going to be able to fight back the surge in Delaware. Inside the levee system, we are fine. Everything's good. All of the predictions of no overtopping of the levees, we keep saying that to make sure people understand. So what we're looking at is a heavy rain event right here. And between tomorrow and Sunday is something we're looking for. All of our crews have been out during the day cleaning catch basins. Our citizens have been doing great cleaning a lot of their own basins for us. So our employees, remember, their families are in the same situation as we are, right? So as a citizen, so they got to take care of their family. So we have about 30 people overnight tonight. If something happens overnight, we'll be able to respond to citizens' needs, and I'm looking to go to bed tonight and get some rest myself.
And just final question here. After what everybody in this parish went through in 2005, a lot of us will never forget that. Do you think that everybody knows, look, we can have dinner with our families tonight, but we're going to pay attention. We're not just locking ourselves off or kind of turning our nose up at any storm after what happened here in 2005.
That's never going to happen in St. Bernard Parish, for as long as I live. I know that. So we are taking the storm seriously. Tonight, we are blessed with good weather tonight. It hadn't really come in yet. But overnight, we know what's going to happen. And there are bad things that can happen. So tonight, we're going to get home. We're going to get a good night's rest. And we're going to get up tomorrow morning to make sure that the citizens' needs are met.
All right, final question here. Can you call your friend over here? Well, we interrupted Mr. McGinnis's dinner here with his family and his grandkids. So we figured we should call over the owner of Rocky and Carlos. Good. Thanks for letting us kind of invade your restaurant. We know that it's an institution here. People seem happy, though. You'll be open tomorrow, I assume?
We've been doing this since Hurricane Betsy. We have a lot of people come in.
Everybody here loves you. Everybody here loves you. Your place is loved, not just in the parish, but everywhere.
54 years we've been very happy. But during Hurricane Betsy, we geared up for a lot of people. We fed a lot of people always. We gear up for the police, the fire department, Mr. McGinnis, and we try to help everybody as we can. Always along the line. We always have our customers. We have to take care of them too. But overall, we do a lot of help for the parish, and we love the parish, so we want to help.
All right, a big family here in St. Bernard Parish. Thank you for letting us come and kind of bully into his dinner. We really appreciate that. And we'll be here for the rest of the night in St. Bernard Parish, bringing you more live reports. Back to you all in the studio.
All right, Fletcher, thank you so much for that. Gina and I were just talking about how we go and eat there, and you can eat the meal for days because the portions are so big.
Right.
We love that place. All right. Thank you so much for that. On the phone right now, we have Chief Tim McConnell from the New Orleans Fire Department. Thank you so much.
Here for Barry are going to be as follows: 3 to 6 feet along the coast and up to 15 plus inches of rain. That's on the low end. You could easily see 25 or more, and we will see wind gusts to 75 miles per hour at times, and the tornado threat is up. That's the update. That's the latest here on Barry. A lot to get through. We'll talk more about the local impacts coming up in just a few minutes. Candace?
To the last place where the center was marked by the hurricane hunters. So could this be the beginning of the organizing of a new center and some intensification of the storm before it gets to the coast? We'll have to watch those trends to see if that's going to be the case. Here's that little piece extending into the coastal parishes where those heavier showers are showing up on Viper. But no doubt about it, there's not a very well organized storm, but it does have some very serious rains with it developing over the Gulf. With a landfalling storm, sometimes we can have tornadoes. We have a level 2 slight risk. There's possibility we may see a tornado watch issued in the early morning hours for southeast Louisiana as the center gets a little bit closer to the coastline. And of course, flood watch, no surprise. That's covering everybody in green until 7 a.m. On Sunday. Now, this is the official forecast from the National Weather Service on rain. I can sit here and show you model forecasts all day long. But this pretty much is an outline of what my thinking is. Ever since last night, and especially this morning, most guidance has continued to hone in on this area west of the lake as possibly having the most intense rain. This yellow area indicating around 15 inches is possible. But over Lake Pontchartrain in the city, it shows lighter amounts. Should we not be concerned about flooding? Of course not. This is indicating widespread 2 to 5 inch rains, and there could be a rain band develop that maybe the computer models aren't going to catch up on, but we're going to see on Viper, and boom, somebody gets under that, and all of a sudden we've got 6 or 7 inches of rain. And it's not just about tomorrow. This is into Sunday, and we'll define what that Sunday threat is in just a moment. But as far as our flood risk, the highest scale is a 4, a high risk, and for tomorrow, there it is, covering most of south central and southeast Louisiana. And on Sunday, a slightly different situation. Notice that this stripe in red is oriented from the northeast to the southwest. That's going to be the tail of Barry, all right? Not the story, T-A-L-E, but the T-A-I-L. And I have seen over the years the tail on these tropical systems can be even worse the day after than actual landfalling storm. And we'll show you the tail on the forecast model in just a moment. Here are the current wind gusts over the Gulf. you can see the broad circulation. We have north winds out here and then south winds out there. So there's the counterclockwise circulation, and the center of the storm located right in that vicinity, 64, 63. So some pretty good wind gusts occurring out over the Gulf. Some of those are on oil platforms, and they're elevated well off the surface of the ocean, but nevertheless, I think they are realistic. Southeast at 36 at Port Fourchon, the last report they had an hour ago, they did report a gust of 62 miles per hour. It may not have updated again, and hopefully they didn't go out there. We're not going to get any more reports. We'll see, because I'm not sure it's updated. But a pretty good breeze in the city right now, lakefront and the airport at 26. And so that 62 hasn't updated again. So hopefully we haven't lost the gauge permanently, but it may be temporary. But with some of those showers that came through, look at this, a gust of 45 in Houma right now, 46 in Morgan City, and near 40 at the lakefront airport. Notice North Shore and Mississippi Gulf Coast, no significant wind gusts. It's breezy, especially if you're right along the lakefront, but not as much as it is on the South Shore. Here are the highest wind gusts since midnight, and generally those have been in the 40s on the South Shore, and around 25 to 30 north of the lake have been the conditions there. The wind field, let's track it. The strong tropical storm force winds with those gusts are right along the coast now, and there could be hurricane force gusts as the meat of the system comes across the area on Saturday morning, particularly south and west of the lake. The yellow, or at least tropical storm, low-end tropical storm force winds, 39 to 57, but those are enough that they can cause some power outages. And then the wind field weakens and shrinks as the storm weakens on Saturday evening, so it becomes less of a wind, and we're focusing just on where all that heavy rain is following. Let's finish up here showing you the next 72 hours. Here's Barry tonight. It's going to be moving west-northwest. Tomorrow afternoon, very slow movement. It may only be to Lafayette or maybe a few miles north of there. So this is going to go very slow, very intense bands wrapping on the southern and eastern side of it. Tropical storm conditions in the city will have occasional passing squalls. Then the next day, as the storm lifts to the north, there's the tail extending northeast to southwest, and that is going to drop some heavy rain over parts of the area. Is it going to be just north of the lake? Is it going to be over Baton Rouge? We'll have to wait and see where that lands, but it could be stormy in the area Sunday again, with the possibility of some heavy downpours, and maybe even still some moisture lingering on Monday, but I think it'll be more scattered and not as intense as on Sunday. So we'll say not as stormy, and we'll have basically hot and humid conditions. Another live look outside the lakefront tonight with plenty of wind showing up out there, and our latest advisory at 7 o'clock. But as I mentioned, and as we all know here who watch Fox 8 News at 9 regularly, that advisory comes out between 9:30 and 10. So we'll have it. Zach's going to have another update in about 20 minutes, and I'm going to be preparing the new advisory. Of course, we'll break in with that.
For that advice, before we let you go, we talked to many of the council members today, paid attention to all the press briefings you had. What's the coordination like back there with NOPD and the other agencies and departments? And we understand that even the National Guard is here at the convention center, ready, staged and ready to go and help.
I'm sorry, you've something cut out in the middle of there when you were asking the question. I heard about the National Guard. We do have quite a few National Guard troops here, and once again, nobody prepares quite as much as our Louisiana National Guard. We have a great partnership with them, and they are prepared and have some equipment here. And obviously, unlike us, necessarily, if the state is hit harder to our west, they will have to pack up and move there if they're not needed here, and they will go wherever they're needed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Just the partnership going